In this video, we want to look at two modules. We want to look at dialogue isolate and deconstruct. And basically, both these modules take the audio source, which contains different types of sounds, and allows you to isolate them. As you can guess, from dialogue isolate, it's going to allow you to isolate the dialogue that's in the sound from the background noise that's also in a sound. Let's start off with this module, and then after that, we'll get into deconstruct, where deconstruct deals more with tonal material, for example, a musical instrument that's playing, but there's other mechanical sounds as well that you want to isolate so you just hear the tonal sound of the instrument. But we'll get to that in a sec. First, starting off with dialogue isolate. So where spectral denoise is great with static noise, where you want to remove static noise, where with dialogue isolate, you want to use it where there's not stationary noise. You want to separate that dialogue from that other type of noise that's in your sound. So for example, in this sound over here, I've got a dialogue that I've recorded of myself, and I'm talking where there's some ambient noise in the background. It's some city street sounds and some bird life that you can hear in it. Check it out over here. This is a voice recorded with some ambient background, and we want to see how much of the dialogue we can isolate from the background. Let's see how good this works. So I can hear my dialogue there, but the noise is pretty loud. So let's see how much of that we can remove. So I'm going to open up the dialogue isolate, and with here, you've got a couple of parameters. This is dealing with your dialogue gain. So if you increase this, you're going to increase the gain of your dialogue. So your speech level adjustment. Then with the noise gain, this is where you can choose to reduce the noise. So if I pull this down, it's going to reduce the amount of noise that it's detecting in the audio. I'll get to these other parameters in a bit. I'll just leave them set where they are. And then let's just select a bit of the area of the audio and preview it. This is a voice recorded with some ambient background, and we want to see how much of the dialogue we can isolate from the background. So you could hear clearly there how it did isolate the dialogue. But with the dialogue, when you're pulling the noise down that much, it does sort of add some artifacts to the sound. So let's just increase a bit of the noise gain and compare this. This is a voice recorded with some ambient background, and we want to see how much of the dialogue we can isolate from the background. That's a bit better, but it's still a bit noisy. That's where I can use this dialogue separation sensitivity. By increasing this, it'll separate the noise from the dialogue. So the separation strength will be more aggressive when you push this up. So let's push that up and preview that. This is a voice recorded with some ambient background, and we want to see how much of the dialogue we can isolate from the background. That's pretty good, but the noise is still a bit loud. So I'm going to pull down the noise gain. But over here, you've got this option here where there's ambience preservation. This retains the steady background noise. So you can pull down the noise, but increase this to make it feel not so jarring when you drop it out. This is a voice recorded with some ambient background, and we want to see how much of the dialogue we can isolate from the background. Now let's just pull the noise down just one more bit, pull back the ambience preservation, and now check it out. This is a voice recorded with some ambient background, and we want to see how much of the dialogue we can isolate from the background. So as you can hear there, it's isolated the dialogue quite a bit, but you're getting a bit of distraction by removing too much of that ambience. So I'm going to increase the ambience preservation and slightly increase the gain and push up the dialogue. So we've got this. This is a voice recorded with some ambient background, and we want to see how much of the dialogue we can isolate from the background. So you can use this to isolate your dialogue quite well. You can also do the reverse. You can choose to reduce the dialogue and increase the noise. Maybe you want to pull out some of that dialogue and just hear a bit more of that ambient background. From the background. So it's pretty interesting how you can do that. Another thing I haven't really touched on is the separation algorithm. By default, it's using joint channel. Now, this is when bits of the left and the right are smeared together and you're getting a cross mix of sounds across the channels. That's where joint channel works pretty well. If you've got specific sounds solely in the left or the right, then use channel independent. Or if you want more clarity with your separation, try the advanced joint channel. That's just using a higher algorithm that will separate the sounds further and you can hear them more clearly with that algorithm. But for most of the time, joint channel works quite well. So that's the dialogue isolate and how you can isolate either the dialogue or the ambient noise. Now let's look at deconstruct, which looks at more tonal material, not audio material with dialogue or speech. So here is the deconstruct module. As I mentioned, this is for more tonal material, not dialogue. And as you can see, you've got control over the tonal gain and the noise gain. So you can increase the tonal elements and reduce any noisy elements you may be hearing in the audio file. For example, here I've got a piano piece, but it's quite a noisy piano. You can hear the felt, the hammers of the keys, and other mechanical elements like the push down of the sustain pedal. Take a listen here. So you can hear those extra noises there. Now let's select an area as a preview, and I want to reduce the noise. So I'm going to pull this down and preview. Already sounding much better, but by pulling down the noise elements, there are some introductions of some artifacts. So I'm going to smooth these out by pulling this up. That's sounding much better. So by pulling those noises down, you're focusing in more on the tonal aspect of that piece. I can also balance between the tonal and the noise. So I'm going to push more towards the tonal. And by pushing more towards the tonal, I can maybe slightly increase that noise so that it doesn't sound too artificial. I can also decide to separate the transients, and with that I can actually push up the transients to make them more apparent or even pull them down. Like these areas you can see here in the waveform are pushing too hard, I can pull that back. For this, let's slightly increase it and preview. Those transients are actually sounding quite hard, so I'm going to pull them down so that it softens those transients. I'm going to slightly pull down that noise just to reduce a little bit more of that. And then I'm going to render it out so we can see the difference. So this is what we started off with. So quite noisy. And then after the reduction of the noise and increasing the tonal balance of it, we've got this. So basically it just comes across more pleasing. You can hear the tone of that piano and less distraction from that noise. Alternatively, you can actually do the reverse. You could push up the noise and pull down the tonal aspect of this audio. So I'm going to pull this down and increase that noise So we're only hearing those sort of mechanical and string sounds of the piano. Check this out. And increasing the noisy balance. It's actually pretty cool. That would sit very nice as a sort of ambient texture that you could add in a soundscape. So as you can see, you can use this module for very creative effects, not only just for correcting some sounds like mechanical noises that you want to remove from a tonal piece. So that's the dialogue isolate and the deconstruct modules. Let's check you in the next video.